It's time for CBJ in 30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. Find us on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, YouTube, and TuneIn. The easiest thing to do is tell Alexa or Siri to play CBJ in 30. Here's your host, Bob McElligott.
I can't believe it's Monday again already. That's the bad news in some ways, but the good news is it's time for another Monday Mailbag edition of CBJ in 30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. Well, it was really strange to have the last couple of days off. It's amazing the Blue Jackets played a game on Friday, had no game Saturday, no game Sunday, don't even have a game until tomorrow night, as a matter of fact. But I guess it's due to the fact the Blue Jackets had played a lot of games in a short period of time, and it was kind of nice because sometimes you just need to step back and take a breath. And sometimes you need to get things done around the house that you didn't get done when you were on the road for 6 or 7 days. So that part of it was nice. Get some things done, kind of step back, take a breath, and now get right back into it today and get ready for a game tomorrow night at Nationwide Arena when the Blue Jackets take on the Montreal Canadiens. I've got a lot of questions that you have sent me over the weekend via Twitter at BobbyMacSports, and I'm going to start to get to those in just a minute. But first, I want to tell you about my good friends over at Telhio Credit Union. Not only do they make sure that this show comes your way, but they can do a lot of great things for you, a lot of great things. Like they can help you consolidate your debt with a Telhio personal loan. Maybe you need cash for a big purchase, or maybe you just need to pay off high-interest credit cards. Just consolidate that debt that you have. You can get the cash right now with a personal loan from Telhio, and you'll find out that the rates are lower than most credit cards. To find out more, go to their website at telhio.org. If you'd like to chat with somebody there is a live chat feature you can click on. Somebody will help you out right away, or you can stop by any of their local offices. Telhio Credit Union is open to everyone in Central and Southwestern Ohio. They are federally insured by NCUA. So that's a little tip and something that might help you as we start to get into this holiday season, into the shopping season, getting ready for Christmas, but not until after Thanksgiving, right? I'm one of those traditionalists. I mean, I'm not going out and starting that Christmas shopping yet. Thanksgiving's got to come first, and then it's just full barrel right at it. But and then those road trips interfere and all that stuff. So who knows? Maybe I shouldn't procrastinate as much as I tend to do. I'm not going to procrastinate in getting to your questions, though. Here they are, and I'll start with Cam today. No, not the Cam that you may think. Cam says, I'm not endorsing a tank at all because I know the Blue Jackets won't, but would it hurt to add a superstar to this team? I feel like this team just needs that superstar-level player as a forward. Well, Cam, that would be great. But the chances of going out and landing a superstar 20 games into the season when everybody's in the playoff race, it's just not likely. Now, there are some teams that are struggling. There are some teams they talk about unloading players, and, maybe that happens down the line. Maybe you wait and see what your situation is going to be. But, look, I agree with you. There's no question about it. This team lost a superstar forward. It would be great to add a superstar forward. The problem is superstar forwards don't just grow on trees. And it's easier said than done, right? And I would think if there was one that was available, that it would already be done by now with the cap space that this team has and the glaring need that it has to score goals. I think that it would be done. It's just tough. It really is. You just can't pull off those kind of trades, especially at this point in the season. Maybe as it gets later, maybe you find that pending free agent that you could talk into signing with you, and you don't go and you make a trade and give something up and then don't have this guy a couple of weeks after you get him in a trade and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's great in theory. I don't disagree with you whatsoever. It's just really hard to get done. It's really hard to get done right now. Lauren says, Torts said the team almost cares too much, that they're uptight and they need to let themselves play. It seems like a cycle of thinking too much, losing, and thinking even more. I wish they could do something fun and out of the norm like that train trip they took last season. Your thoughts? Well, look, Lauren, the train trip, we made a lot about it because it was something that we hadn't done before, going from, where did we go, Montreal to Ottawa, I believe it was. So that was fun because it was different. It wasn't, it wasn't planned to be something fun to let them relax their minds or anything like that. It was planned because it was the easiest mode of transportation. There was no sense in getting on a plane and flying when you could get on a train and go just as quickly. And there are other factors that, come into that. The Blue Jackets used to have their own aircraft, and so the plane would have been there, and we would have gotten on the plane and flew to the next place, no problem. But now we go with a charter service, so, it was just easier to get on the train. It made sense, and it was fun. I'm not taking away from the fact that, as you said, it was fun, and, it broke the monotony. It broke the monotony of travel. But, for that's not going to be – it's not like you could put them on a train. Where are we at on the next trip? Let's say there's a long trip. We're going Florida, Washington, Pittsburgh. It's not like you could say, okay, after the Washington game, we're going to stay overnight. We're going to get on a train. We're going to go into Pittsburgh and play a couple of days later, and that would fix it. I just don't – I don't think that would do it. But as far as something that's a little bit out of the norm and something fun, I don't disagree with you on that. I just think that that's more of a player thing to figure out amongst themselves. And who knows? Maybe they will. I have no idea what they did this weekend when they had some downtime. Maybe they found something already, and I don't even know about it. But, again, the train trip, it was kind of a necessity. It was kind of fun. So I understand what you're saying. That particular example is, that's not what it is. But, yeah, I do agree with you in the fact that it's something to lighten them up a little bit and just quit thinking so much, which is amazing. It's like paralysis by analysis, right? One of those deals. The more you think about it, the worse it gets, and it makes no sense. It makes no sense. Maybe I'm just getting older and I don't think about it as much. I don't think about things as much. I don't care as much or what. Now, I'll say that to you, and then I'll paralyze myself by analyzing. So I'm probably no better than anybody else. Kevin Miller says, was it me, or did it just seem like the officials didn't let the players get set after calling a face-off violation on the Blues power play goal? I don't know, Kevin. Nothing jumps out at me. I don't remember anything specifically, to be honest with you. Maybe you're right, but the fact of the matter is the way the face-offs are now, you never know. I don't even expect the two guys that go into the circle to ever take the draw. I really don't. I've kind of gotten to that point on it. I mean, poor Boone Jenner, here's a great example. How many times has this guy been thrown out of the face-off this year? And there's so many reasons for it. Maybe you don't have your feet set in the right place. Maybe you didn't get your stick down when you were supposed to. The linesmen, they all drop the puck differently. And when you talk to the centerman, they'll tell you that. And you kind of get into a rhythm with certain guys. Some guys you have to figure it out in the early part of the game. Some guys and you have a rhythm, and then if you get out of sync or they get out of sync, then that causes you to get waved out of the face-off too. So I don't know. Maybe you're right. There's nothing that comes to my mind so quickly that I would say that was egregious and that was what caused the goal. I really don't think that, but I'm not saying that you're wrong because I think there's a lot of inconsistencies there when it comes to the face-offs. Both in the way of if you're going to let the guy take it or not, and then, if everybody is completely set before you drop it. I just think there's a lot of variables there, so you very well could be right. Matthew Bailey says, are you getting paid time and a half for all the overtime that you have been putting in? That's funny, Matthew. That's really funny. And I know you're trying to be funny. So no is the answer to the question. And if I sat there and said, well, yeah, I should, even if I try to joke about it, I can't do that because I get the time off in the summer, right? And look, I think overtime is the best overtime is in hockey because look, you can play overtime and a shootout and you're still essentially going to be done in 2 hours and 38 minutes, right? That's the beauty of this sport is that it just moves and it goes. In baseball, extra innings, heaven knows how long you're going to be sitting there waiting for that. Football, they've changed the rules on that a little bit. It lasts a little bit longer than it used to in the NFL. College football, they line up at the 20, and they could keep going for a long, long time. So I'm not going to complain about the overtime. I'm not going to ask for any extra pay. I'll gladly take the time in the summer that I get to make up for all the time that I work in the winter. But thank you for asking. I do appreciate you thinking about me. When it's all said and done, that's the bottom line. That's my takeaway from it, is you were thinking about me, and I really appreciate that. All right, let's go to the next question. It comes from Jeremy G. And Jeremy says, with a lot of talk about the mental side of the game and players thinking too much, do the Blue Jackets or teams around the league in general have mental skills folks like some Major League Baseball teams? The Blue Jackets used to have a guy that was around on a regular basis. Now I don't know exactly what they do with that. I'm sure there are people available. They have John Tortorella, and he's the mental coach. I mean, he really is. And I say that partially tongue-in-cheek, but I'm serious as well. I mean, he prides himself on the mental aspect of the game. Now, maybe he doesn't take in the information and give the advice that a sports psychologist would. But I'm sure there are guys that they can talk to if they want to. They have had regular people in the past. And I think that the way that that's handled, and I'm sure that some teams have it and some teams don't. I mean, I'm sure some teams have regular people, and I'm sure that other teams have available people. It probably just depends upon the organization. But, I mean, it's obviously very prominent, right? I think it's very prominent in sports today. If you go back to, you don't have to go back all that far. You go back into the 70s and 80s, for crying out loud, to think you're nuts if you wanted to bring somebody in to talk to the players about the mental aspect of the game. That just wasn't part of it. But today's athlete, and this goes back to the other question too about caring too much and all that stuff, Lauren's question, they do care. And today's athlete, I've talked with Torts about this time and time again, today's athlete wants to know why. When case in point, and if I probably have told this story before, so I'll apologize in advance if you've heard it. But, I coach travel baseball in the summertime. And a couple of years ago, I was trying to explain to our head coach that, players want to know why. We need to explain why we're asking them to do something. And he looked at me and he said, look, when you were growing up and you were playing at this level, you're playing Little League and then up until what was called Senior League where I was, or Pony League, if you will. He goes, when a coach told you to do something, did you ever ask why? And I said, of course I didn't ask why, because that wasn't the way. You didn't ask why. In fact, if you asked why, you probably got told to sit down, and he'd call on the next guy and tell him to do the same thing, and that guy would run out there and do it, and that would be the end of that, right? You just didn't ask why. That wasn't the way of the world. Today, the way of the world is different. The athletes, and this starts at a young age, it really does. It's just, I call it the, I don't know. It's the, let's just call it the Google generation, just for simplicity. Because young athletes today have had every answer to every question at their fingertips or in the palm of their hands. They really have. I mean, in life, I'm the same way now. If somebody asks a question, we used to be on the bus or, used to be having dinner and somebody would throw something out there. Hey, what was the name of that guy that did this? And everybody would chime in what they thought it was. Nobody could really remember. And then you just kind of forgot about it and you went on with whatever the rest of the story was. Well, nowadays, what was the name of that guy? I don't know. I think it was this. I think it was this. Let's just figure it out. And you just get on your phone and you search for it. And you've got the answer in seconds. And to me, that's the thing with today's athlete. They've had the answer to every question for their entire lives, right? I mean, look, I didn't really get along with my dad until I was older in life. But every time I asked a question and he gave me an answer, I thought that it had to be the absolute right answer because it came from him. It's just the way it was. Well, now I could do the same thing. My kids could ask me a question. I could give them an answer, and they can go look it up and see if I'm right or wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to hear about it. It's just how it is. So today's athlete needs to know why. And again, it starts at an early age. And I think it's fair. I do think it's fair. And Tort says the same thing. If we're going to ask him to do things, in fact, as John Tortorella put it, on one of his Timeout with Torts that I did with him earlier in the year. He said, as coaches, we discuss everything. We know exactly why we are asking them to do what we are asking them to do. The problem is they have no idea why we're asking them to do what we're asking them to do, and it's not fair to them. And he's right. He's right. So when you talk about having somebody to talk to and a sports psychologist at times, I think it makes a lot of sense because sometimes you just need somebody else to talk to. Sometimes you get too close to the situation. You know, maybe you can't talk to your parents about something, but you can talk to your friends about it. And maybe your parents tell you one thing time and time and time again, and your friend tells you the exact same thing, and once a friend says it to you, it clicks, and you say, oh, yeah. Then your parents go, I've been telling you that for 2 years, and you wouldn't listen to me. So it's the same kind of thing. You know, sometimes I think a coach can tell you, and then maybe if you're struggling or if you just need somebody else to talk to, they might tell you the same thing, and you might say, oh, yeah, that's exactly it. So these are good things. It's good to have that available. Again, some organizations, I'm sure they have a regular person that's around all the time. Either way, I think it's needed in this day and age. I think everybody has access to it in one way or another, and I hope that answers your question, Jeremy. Jason R. I see so many complaints about our defense and goaltending all the time. We're bottom in the league in scoring, and we all know about the power play. Is the league not a race to 3+ goals wins? There's been obvious breakdowns that I think scoring would mask. Well, Jason, I know some of that's a question, I guess, but the last statement is absolutely positively true. And the statement is there have been obvious breakdowns that scoring would mask. You're absolutely right. There's no doubt. I mean, look at the goaltenders. And I'm partial to goaltenders because my son's played that position for years. I watch the game now with more sympathy toward those guys, but sympathy and reality. You know, the reality is if a goaltender can't stop a puck, then there's no reason making excuses for him. But look, here's the deal. These goaltenders, and I'm talking about both of them, have been put into spots where they are expected to give up 0 or 1 goal per night. And that is extremely tough. And I don't care if you're a rookie like Elvis Merzlikins or if you are a guy that's been around for years like Jonas Korpisalo. I don't even care if you're Sergei Bobrovsky. That is a tall order to do it night in and night out. Hey, I need you to give up 0 or 1 today. Have you looked around this league? Have you seen the offensive caliber of the teams you're playing against? Giving up 0 or 1 per night puts a huge strain on not only that goaltender, but on the defense and on the team as a whole. And I think maybe this is all part and parcel to what we're talking about here, about the pressure and about not being able to score. And the more you think about it, the harder it gets. It may all go hand in hand, quite frankly, because going into a game every night, if you're thinking as an offense, we've got to find a way to get 3, and we've gotten 1 for the past 2 games. We got 0 the game before that, and we got 2 a week ago. Okay? If you're going in thinking that, and we got to do more, well, most times you're not going to do more. And if you're a defense thinking, I can't make a mistake here, I can't let this guy get off a good quality shot because we can only give up 0 or 1, then, well, just think about that. Just think about that. You know what I'm talking about here. And then when you get back to the goalie, those poor guys, are you kidding me? I can't give up any. I can't give up any tonight. If I give up 1, we might lose. That is just way too much to ask. So, yes, the lack of scoring is the issue. And didn't we talk about this going into the season? If we go back to one of the very first shows of the year, didn't we go through this, the 2 issues that existed, in my opinion, and I think we all agreed on this, quite frankly. It's probably back on one of these Monday mailbags from early in the year. The 2 situations that existed were who was going to stop the puck and who was going to put the puck in the back of the net. And I was more worried about the goaltending than I was about the scoring. I talked about this with Jody Shelley. It's probably on the first Inside Edge. He was worried about the scoring. I was worried about the goaltending. He was right. I was wrong. I think the goaltending's been fine, quite honestly. And Korpisalo specifically has been, I don't want to say better than expected. I think he's made the adjustment to being a starter a little bit more quickly and more convincingly than I thought he would. He's doing what I hoped he would. I just didn't know if he was going to be able to do it that quickly. And Elvis is getting better, still hasn't won a game, let's be honest. He's gotten better. You give up 7 in your first time, you only got one way to go. And I'm not picking on him because I'll tell you this, I thought that last game that he played, that's the best he's looked, and I hope he's getting more confidence in him now. I hope that he is. But again, for these guys to go in and feel like they can't give up a single goal on any night, that is just way too much. So, yes, Jason, the scoring, if somebody would score, if you could score 3, first team to 3 has a chance to win. If you only get 2, your chances are limited in today's NHL. I agree with that. Linda Pilcher says, being a fairly new hockey fan, I struggle to understand analytics. Terms like shot share and high danger chances make my eyes glaze over. Please explain what all this means, as well as the stat describing how likely a shot on goal making it beyond the blue paint is determined. Linda, I'm going to disappoint you. And I'll just tell you right up front, I'm going to disappoint you. And while I'm disappointing you, I'm going to take at least half of this audience and have them roll in their eyes and have them ticked off at me. But I'm just going to tell you, these analytics, I can't help you with them because I don't delve into them. I don't pay much attention to them whatsoever. I'm old school. I go by what I see, and I can tell you who had a good game or a bad game based on what I see throughout the course of the game. The numbers, I think, will back that up if you go and look at the numbers. I'm not perfect, but I don't know. I mean, the first one, shot share, I don't know. I have no idea. What is that, the balance between the two? I don't care. I really don't care. I'm sorry. I'm not – I just am not of that frame of mind. I can tell you high danger chances, well, that's where the shot is coming from. The closer in proximity to the net, or that's more of a high danger area. You're certainly better off taking a shot from right down near the net than you are from taking it out on the blue line, beyond the blue line, or maybe just inside the blue line. So I can tell you that. But all of these stuff. Look, I look at shots on goal because, and I have this argument all the time. They talk about these shot attempts, and it's even on the scoreboard now, and I know, and I'll tell you right now, our game ops director, Derek, is going to hear this, and he's going to hear me whining about it again. But when I see the shot attempts on the scoreboard, it's just making me wait 7 seconds until I get the shots on goal. Look, if you attempt a shot and it doesn't get there, then it's never going in the net. If you get a shot on goal, then it had a chance to go in the net. This is my thinking. This is my rationale, okay? And I'm not saying it's right. It's old school. It's old and it's unbending, I guess is what it is. But even when I did baseball for all those years, I would tell people I think stats are a crutch because, in baseball in particular, you could have a guy that had 1 hit in his last 10 at-bats, and that's terrible, right? It's batting 100. But if he also had that hit within his last 3 at-bats, I could skew it to where he was batting .333. Right? So look, that's why I just don't get into it. I know a lot of guys in my profession, a lot of guys in my business, they love it, they live by it, they die by it, they can't wait to spit out all those numbers. I just don't. I'd rather tell you about the play as it's set up. I'd rather tell you about the person. I'd rather tell you a lot of other things than that. So, Linda, I'm sorry. And there's somebody you can get that information from, but I just call them as I see them. That's what I do. Gary Weinheimer says, what will it take for the Blue Jackets to score on an empty net? Well, it'll take a late lead in the third period, I can tell you that. But that's the least of the worries. No, I mean hitting the empty net. If you have the lead, just hold on to the lead. But sometimes missing that net means you no longer have the lead, so that's a good point. Jay Alexander says, Matt Calvert took a puck to the head during the Avalanche game and was bleeding on the ice. Both teams wanted to stop play, but play continued. Eerily similar to the Werenski play 3 years ago. What is your opinion on the way this is currently officiated, and should the rule change? I believe the rule says that if the official thinks that player is really hurt, they can stop it. And it's tough in some ways, but I think if a guy – look, all right, I'm going to say this. I think if a guy gets hit in the head, you should stop it. But let's go back to the Werenski thing where he gets that puck off the stick, goes right up and busts him in the face, and he's down, and Pittsburgh scores a goal. And then later, was it that same series? And you'll tell me if it was, where one of the Penguins players got hit with a puck in the back of the helmet, and a referee stopped the play immediately. And the Penguins did not have possession of the puck. It's supposed to be your team has to gain possession before they stop the play. But I'll tell you this, on that play in particular with Matt Calvert, Elias Pettersson took the shot, knew he hit him in the head, knew he was hurt, looked toward an official and put his arm up in the air as if to say, hey, we need to take care of this, and they didn't blow the whistle. And then it went on and on and on, and then there was a score. And I thought that was wrong. And I saw Zach Werenski tweeted about that too, and I don't blame him because, you can tell, and players can certainly tell when somebody is really hurt, and they can see the blood and all that stuff. So that, I think that maybe there should be more of a clarification there, but if I'm not mistaken, it says right there in that rule that they can blow the play dead, and they'll take a lot of grief about it. Look, that was a Vancouver home game, and Vancouver had the puck. They were going to take a lot of grief about it, but I think in that instance, it would have been the right thing just to stop the play right then and there. Let's see. David Lytle. I'll give David the last one here today. Do you have an explanation for our inability to close out a period without giving up a goal in the last 2 minutes? Lack of conditioning, line rotation, lack of focus. It's making winning mighty difficult. Well, David, of your choices, I'd have to say lack of focus. Of those choices, that's what I would say. It's not lack of conditioning. It's not line rotation. In fact, let's go back to the St. Louis game the other night. They gave up a goal in the final minute of the period. Why did they give up that goal? Mackenzie McEachran's coming around on a wraparound, and Korpisalo gets his skate to the post, and David Savard is trying so hard to help out that he gets a stick in there, and the stick is between the skate and the puck hits the stick, and it winds up going into the net, even though had the stick not been there, the skate would have taken care of it. So they tried too hard there and paid a price. But sometimes, yes, again, of all the options that you gave, and the lack of focus is the one that I like. I think that you've got to be aware of how much time's left. You have to be aware of the entire situation, and you have to play it accordingly. And I think there have been times this year that they have not, and they have got to get better at it because, as you just said, and I quote, it's making winning mighty difficult. However, the Blue Jackets did get a nice overtime win against St. Louis on Friday. Tomorrow, they will get a chance to take on the Montreal Canadiens once again. Just a week ago, they were in Montreal, had a chance to win the game, and gave up a late goal in the final minute, just what we're talking about, and then lost it in a shootout. So they have a chance for some revenge against the Montreal Canadiens tomorrow night. That'll be a 7 o'clock game at Nationwide Arena. Well, thank you, as always, for your questions, like you do every week. Sending them to me on Twitter at BobbyMacSports. You can send them at any time. I would love to get your thoughts and see what's on your mind and all that stuff. And until tomorrow, I'm Bob McElligott saying so long.